Christopher and West Street in the 1970s, a wonderful time and place. It was midway between the Stonewall Rebellion and the AIDS crisis, and this corner was the place to hang out. There were bars all around, and just across the street was Pier 45. You might spot some Colt studio models at the Croissant Wagon, that's Bruno on the left, or the village people in front of the Ramrod, filming the video for It's Fun to Stay at the YMCA. But for New York, things were not so wonderful. The city was bankrupt. The Bronx was burning. The son of Sam serial killer was getting on everyone's nerves. In July, the lights went out, and the city erupted in looting and riots. Ed Koch was running for mayor against Mario Cuomo, and on overpasses around town, you saw the slogan, "Vote for Cuomo, not the homo." Poor Koch had to pretend to be straight. Large parts of the city were in ruins, including the Hudson River waterfront. The ocean liners were long gone, and the piers were falling into the river. The West Side Highway had rusted out and collapsed. While the city was falling apart, gay people were building a community. Along this stretch of the Hudson, from the village in the south to Chelsea in the north, the gays moved in, colonizing the industrial wasteland on Manhattan's west side. They were creating the institutions which would sustain and grow the gay liberation movement in the years to come. An example of community building was the formation of the Big Apple Softball League in 1977. In its first season, it fielded 12 teams. They were all sponsored by bars, including 7 bars along the red line in this map. Here are some of the Big Apple teams: Badlands and Boot Hill, Ty's Ball Breakers, the Spike, the Eagle, and of course, at the end of the season, the Gay World Series. Now we take a virtual stroll along that red line, checking out some of those taverns and other hot spots. Starting down Christopher, we pass 2 legendary bars, Boots and Saddles and Ty's. They both sponsored teams. Ty's was basically a neighborhood hangout. Boots and Saddles was a touch campier. Everybody called it bras and girdles. The Ty's softball team was called the Ball Breakers, but the jersey was more discreet and said just Breakers. Moving on down to West Street, Keller's was at Barrow, a block south of Christopher. It had a mainly black clientele and also fielded a team. At the corner of Christopher and West was the Badlands, often with a crowd milling about. And right across the street was Pier 45. This is the Badlands team. Moving along, we come to Sneakers, next door to Badlands. It was a refuge for those who did not share the footwear preferences of Boot Hill and Boots and Saddles. The next bar north was the Ramrod. The Ramrod team won the Big Apple softball pennant in 1977, but lost the World Series in the fall to another Badlands, this one in San Francisco. Just 3 years later, in 1980, a crazy ex-cop turned up at the Ramrod with a submachine gun and started firing. After the shooting, the Ramrod closed. Besides the bars, there were the cavernous old warehouses on the piers, shown in these photos by Alvin Baldwin. They were secured with chain link fences, but the fences were broken. You entered at your own risk. You had to watch your step. The piers were dangerous. Alvin Baldorp captured disturbing images of bodies being fished up from the river below the rotting decks. Farther north on West Street was the area where transgender sex workers plied their trade in the open air, good weather and bad, under the shadow of the rusting and abandoned West Side Elevated Highway. Photos by Efrain John Gonzalez. Continuing north, West Street turns into 11th Avenue at Gansevoort, and you are in the Meatpacking District. This area now is home to shishi boutiques and expense account restaurants, but in 1977, its business was meat. Carcasses would arrive at night via the Highline Elevated Railroad, now repurposed as a park, and by day they were carved into roasts and steaks and chops and cutlets to feed the city. There was blood in the gutters, and the cobblestones were greasy with tallow. The Anvil, a bondage and discipline club, opened in 1973, and it attracted a celebrity crowd with Lou Reed and Freddie Mercury as customers. The Anvil did not admit women, and it was rumored that Princess Lee Radziwill managed to enter by disguising herself as a man. In the meatpacking area proper, the Mineshaft opened in 1976. It was a members-only club, and there was no sign. Security mattered at the Mineshaft, and the dress code had lots of don'ts. No colognes, no suits or ties, no dresses, no designer sweaters, no disco drag. Vincent Minnelli, Rainer Werner Fassbinder, Rock Hudson, and Michel Foucault visited the Mineshaft. The manager refused entry to Mick Jagger, and a bouncer turned away Rudolf Nureyev. Rumpel Mapplethorpe was the Mineshaft's official photographer. And here is Freddie Mercury wearing a Mineshaft t-shirt in the video of Don't Stop Me Now. The Anvil and the Mineshaft evidently were not that into softball and did not field teams. And now we reach Chelsea and two famous leather bars. The Spike and the Eagle were only a block apart. The Spike was at 20th and 11th Avenue. The Eagle was at 21st. They attracted a leather and denim crowd that drew inspiration from biker gangs. This is Chuck Thompson, the Spike's proprietor. The Eagle was a reincarnation of an old longshoreman bar. It started out as the Eagle Bar and Kitchen, serving local working men. Then for a period, working men during the day and gay men later at night. And finally, as the longshoremen followed the jobs to New Jersey, it became gay around the clock. The Eagle used to have Sunday afternoon tea dances. I was attending one of those when hardworking Congresswoman Bella Abzug showed up and gave a rousing speech. The crowd gave her a huge applause, and then they danced some more. The Eagle also fielded amateur sports teams and had a wall of trophies to prove it. In 2001, it moved to a much grander location with a roof garden at 28th and 11th. And of course, rivalry between the Spike and the Eagle flared when they both fielded teams in the Big Apple Softball League. These photos were taken by my friend Rudy Matisse, a longtime resident of Chelsea. What was the score? I don't know, but I can tell you this. Everyone was a winner. The Big Apple Softball League is still thriving, comprising 30 teams and 600 players. Some of the organizations founded in the 1970s did not last. The Gay Activist Alliance and the Gay Liberation Front are gone. Of the bars mentioned in this clip, only Ties and the Eagle are still open. Some other organizations of the 70s are still out there fighting for the cause. Lambda Legal, the National Gay Task Force, the Gay and Lesbian Switchboard of New York, answering calls since 1971. But these are not the only fronts in the struggle, and the Big Apple Softball League shows the world that gay people too have a stake in our national pastime. The league is open to all skill levels and abilities, and to all people, regardless of race, religion, age, gender expression, or sexual orientation. The Big Apple pennant winners will compete this year in the North American Gay Amateur Athletic Association World Series this October in Las Vegas.